Welcome to this complete HTML course with handwritten notes. HTML is the language of the web and it is something that you will have to learn if you want to make beautiful websites. HTML is the very basic of web development, and once mastered with CSS and JavaScript, you will have tons of opportunities in different fields. We are living in a digital era where everybody needs a website, and the demand of beautiful, fast and amazing looking website is increasing day by day. My name is Harry and I will be your instructor throughout this course. We'll start from the very basic of HTML and then we'll raise the bar like anything. We'll learn all those tags which maybe some of you have not even ever heard about, but we are going to learn about them and we'll use them throughout the projects that we are going to do in this course. Not only that, we are also going to discuss search engine optimization in this course. We are going to learn about different metrics which can be used to make your website rank higher in Google by giving a better experience to your users. The prerequisite of this course is nothing but just your time. You just have to come with your time and I'm here to take care of rest of the things. If you really like this initiative, I want you guys to like this video and write a comment for me saying that this HTML course is helpful. That would mean a lot to me. So please take a moment to do that. Also, this course has been divided into different chapters so that it's easier for you to grasp the concepts, and along with all the chapters, I have written handwritten notes as well as the practice set which will be available to you as PDF. Not only that, I'll also be supplying you two formats of the cheat sheets. The first one is the PDF format and the other one is the web format, so that all the commands that you want to use in HTML is a single click away. Along with that, I have also timestamped this video so that you can come back to this course at the appropriate chapter, at the appropriate practice set where you previously left off. While you are revising, you can also skip few parts of the video and focus on the things that you want to revise. I understand that timestamping is really important for you. All the projects that we are going to do in this course can be added to your GitHub profile. Feel free to add all these projects to your GitHub profiles and they will definitely enhance your portfolio. So enough of talks now. Let's get started. So I have written some handwritten notes in the form of 5 chapters for you, and all these notes are going to help you a lot when it comes to revising HTML, and even when it comes with understanding, this is going to help you a lot, believe me. So this is the chapter number 0, which gives you the basic introduction of what HTML is, why HTML is needed, and what CSS and JavaScript has to do when it comes to web pages and websites. So let's get started with HTML. What exactly is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is a language of the web. It is something that you need to get your websites up and running. It is used to create websites. We use HTML text to define look and feel of a website. So when you open youtube.com or when you open github.com or any other website for that matter, that website looks the way it looks just because of the HTML it is rendering. This website looks this way just because of the HTML it is rendering. Then what is the role of CSS and JavaScript should be the question that you might ask. So let's take all of these one by one. So we use HTML tags to define look and feel of a website. What exactly is an HTML tag? Let me show you something. Let us say you have this website, or any website for that matter. If you right click and click on view page source, you'll see the source of that website. That source is nothing but the HTML code of that website. The moment you go to the source code of some website, you'll see these kind of tags. Now we'll look into all these tags one by one very soon, but this is HTML. This is something that you need to know. This tag, this A tag, this P tag, this LI tag, this UL tag, all these tags are nothing but part of this HTML document. Okay. Now, then why it's CSS and JavaScript? You must be thinking that if HTML can get the job done, why do we need CSS and JavaScript? Yes, HTML can get the job done. It can give you a basic web page. It can give you a very basic layout. But again, if you want to design the layout, if you want to make it look good, you need CSS. CSS is used to design a web page. Now, okay, so we have the web page. We have the design of the web page. We should be good, right? HTML for layout of the web page and CSS for the design of web page. Why do we need JavaScript then should be your next question. And this is what I'm going to answer now. So HTML is used for defining the layout of a page, a bare bone page structure. So HTML simply tells that here there's something which is going to be an image.
Here another image is going to come, here some heading is going to come, then another heading is going to come, then some input tag is going to come. Now CSS will decide where this input tag will be aligned with respect to the web page, where this particular portion of the website will be aligned with respect to the web page, which heading is going to appear before which heading. All these things can be controlled using CSS. Also, the background color of a page, the color of the text, and the font of the text, the font size of the text, all these things can be controlled using CSS. So CSS is used to add styling to the barebone page, which was created using HTML. So I hope that the role of CSS and HTML are clear to you. HTML for the bare bones, CSS for designing and defining how a particular page looks. Okay, so we have the bare bones, we have the designing. What about JavaScript? Why do we even need JavaScript? Should be your next question. So JavaScript is used to program logic for the page layout. What does this mean? This means that JavaScript is going to control what happens when a user hovers on a text. What will happen when somebody clicks on a link? What will happen when somebody selects a piece of text? What will happen when somebody say right clicks or say clicks on something or say brings their mouse inside of a box? So all these things can be controlled using JavaScript. So JavaScript is used to program the client side logic of the page. So HTML for the bare bones, CSS for the styling, and JavaScript for the client side logic. What is client-side logic? Client-side logic is simply what happens when a user interacts with the page. So you can define what happens when somebody clicks on a button. You can define what happens when somebody takes their mouse over to this particular heading and so on. We'll learn about all these things. Let's now learn about these things using a very beautiful analogy. So you can consider HTML as a car body. Assuming you own a car, you must be having a metallic portion of the car, which is nothing but the body. Exclude the engine, exclude the seats, exclude the color, exclude all the designing which has been tailor-made for your car. Just remove all those things and your bare bones, just the metallic body of your car can be looked upon as HTML. If I add CSS to your car, you can add paint, decoration, etc. and your car is now designed. So I can say that CSS has been added to your car. What about JavaScript? JavaScript is brain of your car. It will logically define what happens when somebody sits inside the car, what happens when somebody interacts with the car. And this will comprise of car engine, the logic of the interior, the logic of the MID and all those things. So this is a very good analogy that I think is very, very beneficial when it comes to understanding what is the role of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So HTML is the body of the car, CSS is the paint, decoration and other styles that is added to the car, and JavaScript is the engine and the interior logic of the car. So we'll start learning how to build beautiful layouts in this course. We'll look into all the aspects of this particular thing, which is HTML, and we'll also look into how we can write HTML so that our web pages are SEO friendly. But before that, we are going to install an IDE cum source code editor, which is Visual Studio Code. So we can use any text editor of our choice. There's no compulsion. You don't have to use Visual Studio Code, but I'm going to use Visual Studio Code because it is lightweight, it is open source, and it is from Microsoft, and it is cool, believe me. So we'll go to Google, we'll type Visual Studio Code. So I'll say install VS Code and head over to this website. Click on Windows, Linux or whatever operating system you are in. I'll click on Windows because I'm on Windows, and an installer will get downloaded to my machine. So VS Code user setup.exe, this particular installer is downloaded to my machine. I'll wait for it to download and then I'll click on it and wait for it to install. I will simply read the license agreement and then I'll simply click on I accept the agreement, next. Wait, I want to check all these boxes. Make sure that you have all these boxes checked and then simply click on next. Then once again install and give it the time it needs, and it is going to install Visual Studio Code on your computer. I'll wait for some time and Visual Studio Code will be installed very soon on my machine. As you can see, Visual Studio Code has been installed. I don't want to launch it just yet. I'll simply click finish. If you have installed Visual Studio Code just like I did, you'll be able to open Visual Studio Code inside a given folder. Now what I mean by that is you can simply go to a folder and you can simply right click and you can click on this open with code, and the moment you do that, this particular folder will be opened inside your Visual Studio Code. So you can see that my Visual Studio Code shows these 3 files, and this particular folder also shows these 3 files, which means that the files which I see here and the files which I see here are exactly the same, and this folder has been opened inside my Visual Studio Code. We'll now move on to chapter number 1 and we'll see some important concepts of HTML in great detail. So let's move on to chapter number 1 now. So this is the PDF of chapter number 1 which I've created for you. Let me open this PDF in Chrome. So this is a chapter and we are going to create a first website in this chapter. Yes, you heard that right. So let us understand how we can create a basic website using HTML. So we start building a website by creating a file named index.html. Now index.html is a special file name which is presented when the website root address is typed. What does that mean? Let me explain it to you. So what I'll do is I will come to this chapter, and inside this folder I'll simply right click and click on open with code. What that will do is that will open this particular folder inside Visual Studio Code for me. So the folder which is being shown here, these 2 files from this particular folder and these 2 files inside of my Visual Studio Code are representing the same files from this folder, which means that I am capable of opening this folder inside Visual Studio Code. Let me show you something. I'll create a new file by clicking on this icon and I'll say index.html. I can also create a folder by clicking on this particular icon. This is for creating a new folder. This is for creating a new file. At this moment, what I've done is I've created a new file which is index.html. If I show you this folder, you'll see that index.html is also reflected here. So index.html here and index.html inside Visual Studio Code are representing the same thing. I'll show you something. Simply press shift on your keyboard and press 1. So if you press that, what will happen is you will see an exclamation mark and you will see this particular drop down. This is nothing but emit abbreviation. Emit abbreviation means that it is going to print the boilerplate code for you. So let me choose this first option and it will magically give me the boilerplate code that I need for this particular website. Now, what does this mean? What does this boilerplate code mean? So there is some piece of code which all of my web pages are going to need. This is the code that I'll require when I'm creating a basic HTML website. Now this has a title, this has a body, this has some meta tags. Now if you are new to HTML, you might think that what are these types of tags and why do I need all these tags? Do I need to remember this? The answer is no, you don't have to remember this. All you need to remember is that in order to get this in Visual Studio Code, all you need is an exclamation mark and you have to press an enter key. And that's going to do all the magic for you. Now if I press tab and if I change the title to programming with Harry and if I press Ctrl S, what will happen is this will change the page title to programming with Harry. Now I'll simply type I am page body here, and after doing that what I'll do is I'll go to my extensions. So you can click here to go to your extensions and install an extension called Live Server. So Live Server is an extension which simply allows you to open a web page live in your browser. What does that mean? Let me explain it to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install this. In your case, you will see this install button here. Simply click on that install button and Live Server will get installed. And the moment you do that, maybe you might have to restart your Visual Studio Code in some cases, but in most of the cases, you're going to see an option of open with Live Server. So the moment you right click on this page inside your index.html, you'll see an option open with Live Server. Click on this option and the moment you do that, you'll see this page opened inside your Google Chrome or whichever is your default browser. Okay, in my case it is Google Chrome. Now you can see that the title of the page is programming with Harry and the body is here, I am page body. What if I change this I am page body to I am page body and description? What if I do something like this? This will automatically get updated here, which is done by Live Server here. I don't have to refresh it all the time, which is why I have installed Live Server Chrome extension. Let's now try to understand what all these tags are about. What is this doc type HTML? What is this HTML tag? What is this head tag? What is this meta? Why do we have 3 meta tags? Let's try to understand all these things. So inside our basic HTML page, the very first line that we have is the doc type HTML. This line specifies that this is an HTML5 document. Now, back in the day, we used to have HTML documents. HTML5 is a new specification, and this particular line at the top of your HTML page simply declares this page as an HTML5 document. HTML tag is the root of an HTML page, and whenever we have an opening tag, we have a closing tag as well. So I'll show you something. I'll simply click here and I'll say full screen snip, and I want to make a point by doing this. So do you see this HTML tag? The closing tag corresponding to this particular tag is this. So HTML is opened here and HTML is closed here. Did you notice that the HTML tag is opened by writing HTML inside the angular brackets, and it is closed by writing the same HTML inside the angular bracket, except the fact that it starts with a /. So this is the closing tag, this is the opening tag, and inside the opening tag and closing tag is my HTML document. Same goes for head as well. The head is opened here and head is closed here. So this is the closing tag for head. Same goes for title as well. The opening tag for title is here, the closing tag for title is here. Same goes for body as well. The opening tag of body is here, closing tag of body is here. So corresponding to almost all the tags in HTML, we have an opening tag and closing tag. But there are some of the tags which do not require opening and closing tag, and we are going to learn about those tags in the future. But for now, just keep this in your mind that whenever you have a tag, you have an opening tag, you have a closing tag, and between these opening and closing tags lies some of more HTML of your page. Okay, so in this case, inside my body, I have this H1 opening tag and H1 closing tag, P opening tag, P closing tag, and inside this P opening tag and P closing tag is my paragraph. So corresponding to almost all the tags, there is an opening tag and a closing tag, and between opening and closing tag lies some HTML. Okay, so I'll close this snip and I'll come back to notes. So HTML is the root of an HTML document. Whatever you see inside your browser, it includes the title, it includes the body, it includes the header, footer, whatever you see will be enclosed inside your HTML. So HTML marks the start of your document. I'm talking about this HTML tag. This particular tag marks the start of your HTML document, marks the start of your web page. Now let's talk about head. Head is something that is that includes the title. It includes some meta information. What is meta information? Meta tags means information about information. For example, this page might have a meta tag called description associated with it, and this description will be used by search engine to display the content of the page when you search. So I'll show you something. Let us say if I search JavaScript, you'll see this particular text. Did you see this particular text? Search engines might use this particular text out of your meta description tag. So if you write your meta description tags properly, search engines are going to be happy with your websites. Okay, so this is about the meta tag. I have this meta tag here, but I don't have meta tag inside of here. Meta tags are not essential. Your page will still work if you don't have meta tags. Let's talk about the title. Title is the page title. It's really very important because this marks the title of your page. What your page is about is really very important for the users, and you should write your title tags very nicely. Okay. Now this particular closing head tag marks the closure of my head tag, and from here starts the body of my pages. Now body of the page is something which is displayed below this line. Did you see this line? This particular thing? This thing is the body of the page. So whatever I see here will be the body of my web page. Okay. Now body might have a heading, it might have a paragraph. There are a lot of tags that I'm going to discuss in this course, and you can use all those tags to write paragraph, to write lists, to write different types of headings and so on. We are going to talk in depth about all these things. Okay. And this marks the closing of body tag, and this marks the closing of HTML tag. So I hope you got an idea of how these things are working, how HTML works, how opening and closing tag works, and how title, body, and all these things work inside a web page. So a tag is like a container for either content or other HTML tags. For example, if you see this HTML document will be received by the browser, and this browser will render it inside of your computer screen. So whatever you see inside your Google Chrome is something that is done by the browser. The browser in reality accepts the HTML code. So if you see this page, this is not what this browser received. This browser received this thing, and your browser is smart enough to convert this code into this beautiful looking page. So this is how HTML is passed by the browser. So HTML document is received by the browser, and that particular HTML code is rendered like this by your browser. Okay, so this is how HTML document works. There are a few important notes that I want to talk about here. Head and body tags are children of HTML tag. So HTML contains the entire web page, which is why head and body are children of HTML. HTML is the parent of head and body tags. Now, since head and body are children of HTML, HTML is the parent of head and body. That totally makes sense, right? Now, most of the HTML elements have opening and closing tags with content between opening and closing tags. This is also very evident. We have seen this. Now, some HTML tags have no content, and these are called empty elements. Now, there is an example of empty element, which is BR, which is used to create a new line after a heading or paragraph. We can either use .htm or .html extension with our web pages. So it's not mandatory that you have to use .html as the extension of your web page. You might even use .htm as your page extension if you are using HTML. Now, you can use inspect element of view page source option from Chrome to look into a website's HTML code. This is also important. All you need to do is you need to right click on inspect, and you'll see all the code which has resulted into this page. The code that browser has actually parsed in order to display this page to you will be seen here. Okay, I hope that makes sense as well. Now, HTML element is nothing but starting tag plus content and ending tag. So HTML, when I say HTML element, what I mean is I'm talking about the starting tag, I'm talking about the content inside the starting tag and ending tag, and I'm talking about the ending tag. So if I'm talking about head element, I'm talking about this entire thing. In this case, if I'm talking about head element, I'm talking about this. Okay, so this is something that you need to take care when you're talking about the HTML elements. Okay. Comments in HTML. What is a comment? So sometimes you might want to write something inside your source code which you don't want your browser to parse. But the sad truth is that whatever you write here is going to be parsed by the browser. So if I say, hey browser, please don't parse this. Okay, if I do something like this, browser is not going to listen because it's not a human being. It's going to show me this. So in order to make this browser not parse this and completely ignore this, I can actually write something called comment. I simply pressed Ctrl+/ inside my keyboard, and I can toggle a comment. So if I press Ctrl+/, this particular thing will surround whatever I am selecting, and this will be marked as a comment in HTML. Okay, so in order to mark something as a comment in HTML, all you need to do is angle bracket, exclamation mark, double dash, and you have to close it like this, double dash and closing angular bracket. That's about it, and you have a comment in HTML. Now if I show you the browser and if I reload this, I think I forgot to save. I'll save this. So make sure that you save your file as well. So the moment you save, you'll see that this is not being passed by the browser anymore. But if I show you the source code, it will be there in the source code. So if I zoom in, you'll see that, hey browser, please don't parse this, is inside my source code. So make sure that you are not writing any confidential information inside the comments, because your users will still be able to press right click and go to view page source, and they are going to definitely see whatever comment you have inside your web page. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let's now talk about case sensitivity. Is HTML a case sensitive language? No, it is not. It is a case insensitive language. What is a case insensitive language? A case insensitive language is a language where the uppercase, lowercase, or any other case doesn't matter when you're using the tags. What does that mean? So I can either say body, or I can do something like this, capital BODY. This will still work. So if I do something like this, this will still work. I'll show you. So if I reload this page will still work. And if I go to the page source, the capital body works, capital head will also work, capital title will also work, and so on. So I hope that you understood why HTML is a case sensitive language. It works whatever be the case of your tags. It can be uppercase, it can be lowercase, and so on. So enough of theory about HTML. Let's now move into the chapter 1 practice set and solve some problems. Let's move on to chapter 1 practice set now.
So I'm back with chapter 1 practice set, and here is our first question which we are going to solve, and it says inspect your favorite website and change something on the page which is displayed. So all we need to do here is to go to a website. It can be anything. I'm going to go to codewithharry.com and I'm going to open it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here and I'll go to view page source. So as you can see that I've compressed the HTML on my website. I'm using Angular Universal to pre-render it. You must be an HTML beginner and must be wondering what I'm saying, but this is a very regular HTML page. You can see what the content of the page is. So here is the content of the page. All the content of the page is visible here, and this is a first website that we kind of inspected. Okay, you can go to another website. We can go to Google Fonts and we can inspect it. So all I want from you is to go to the website, have a look at the source code and try to understand why things are structured the way they are. So this is our first exercise from chapter 1 practice set. Now the question number 2 says that go to your favorite website and try to view the page source and write the exact lines of code. Does it clone the website? Will copying the source code of fonts.google.com create a replica of fonts.google.com is the question. Let's try to answer the question. So what I'll do is I'll press Ctrl A on my keyboard and I'll press Ctrl C. Ctrl A for select all, Ctrl C for copy. And now let's open VS Code here. So this is the index.html. Now what I'll do is I'll say 01 underscore pr01.html and let me paste the source code. I'll tell you something. If you right click here, you can see that there are only 4 lines and these lines are way too long. Okay, which is why you are seeing it like this. I'll show you how you can view the source code, because this is not how you can conveniently view the source code. There are 2 options. The first option is go to the command palette in VS Code and type word wrap. I want to toggle word wrap. So if you go to view toggle word wrap and if you select this option, what VS Code will do for you is it will display the entire line within this width. It is not changing the way code is written. I have not altered the file. My file is the same. The way I'm viewing it has changed. Previously, I was allowing my lines to overflow from this VS Code view container. But now what I'm saying is I'm telling VS Code, hey, please show me all these lines such that I can see them. Okay, this is how I'm viewing my source code. There is another way I can use. I can turn off the word wrap. So I can go to command palette. I can select this option to turn off the word wrap. Basically the code is the same, except the fact that now the way I'm viewing the code has changed. I'm not viewing a line within this viewport. The line is overflowing. Okay, I hope you understood this. Now what I'll do is I'll right click and select this option, format document. This will actually change the way the code is structured. So if I click on format document, you can see previously there were only 4 lines. There are now 351 lines. But what VS Code has done for me is it has changed the way the code was structured. So it has basically formatted the code for me, which is what I wanted. Okay, so this is how VS Code works. The code has been formatted for me. And now what I'll do is I'll right click, I'll click on open with live server, and you can see that unfortunately this page doesn't exist. Google Fonts, did it create the replica of the website? No, it did not. Why was that the case? Because this website is actually communicating with a lot of other CSS, a lot of other APIs. Maybe I'm not allowed to access the API from this particular server. That is a topic for another day. But if you simply copy the HTML of a page and you try to paste it inside a file, or rather a .html file, you are not going to see the replica of the website. It's not that easy. You can definitely clone a website to some extent. It's possible, but you cannot do something like this and have another clone of Google Fonts. This is not possible. This is what the question was about. So Did it clone the website? No. Why? Because I might not have the access of some of the relative paths. I might not have the access of some of the APIs. I might not be allowed to say access some other stuff from localhost. A lot of things might be the reason, but the answer is no. And this is why you cannot clone a website like this. Write any HTML code inside a text file. Does it work if you write it using Notepad? So far we have used Visual Studio Code. Let me do something for you. I'll open this folder. I'll go to new text document. I'll say notepad.html. I want to change the extension. And it will give me a warning that, hey, you are changing the txt extension to .html. Do you want to proceed? Was it something that you intended? It'll ask me all these things. So it's basically telling me that this file might become unstable because you are changing the format. So I'll say, yes, I know what I'm doing. So let me do it. Now I'll open this particular file with Notepad. So you can always open .html file using Notepad. So let me search for Notepad. I can't see Notepad. It's here. Okay. So I have opened this file in Notepad. Now what I'll do is I'll simply write HTML. I'll write head. And back in the day when there was, or rather I should say Visual Studio Code and other source code editors like this were not as popular as they are today. People used to write code like this. Okay. Or I can safely say that back in the days of early computers, early computing days, 90s, 80s, people used to write code like this. There were mainframe screens. There were no operating systems like Linux, Windows or Mac. But it's an amazing time to live. Title, and I'll say this is page title. And I'll simply say title and HTML head title. Then I close the head tag. I'll start the body tag. I know you must be thinking, what is this guy doing? Why is he typing everything? I just want to show you that even if you type using Notepad, it's going to work. So I'll say it works and I'll save it. I just pressed Ctrl S. Notepad.html has been saved. I'll open this file in Chrome and you can see that it works. If I go to view page source, I'll see all the source code. Does it work with live server as well? Yes, it doesn't matter how the file was written. If it is written and structured in a way that browser can understand, it will definitely work. So this is how this works. So doing this and doing this is a bit different. Here we are using a server. Here we are simply opening the file using our browser. So you can see that file, if you see here, file is written. And if you see here, it's kind of a website for the browser. So it's simply a file assigning in a computer, but if you use the server, you'll get a lot of advantages that you'll know about in the future. We'll always use live server when we are writing HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So yeah, that was about Chapter 1 Practice Set. I hope you understood what the takeaway of Chapter 1 Practice Set was. We'll move on to Chapter 2 now and we'll start coding some beautiful websites and we'll try to get more understanding of HTML. Let's move on to Chapter 2 now. So here is a PDF of Chapter 2 and let us now talk about some of the basic HTML tags. We can add elements inside the body tag to define the page layout is something that we all know by now. But which tag to use when is one of the most important questions, and we are going to answer that in this chapter. So let's do one thing. Let's go to this folder and open this folder in Visual Studio Code. I have opened this folder in VS Code and I'm going to create a file called 01 underscore PR01, not PR01, 01 underscore structure.html. So this particular file is going to describe the structure of HTML. I'm going to use exclamation mark and enter to create the basic boilerplate of HTML. This is automatically done by VS Code when you put an exclamation mark. This is called emit abbreviation. Once you say exclamation mark and you press enter key or you select this, you are going to see this document. Now in order to define my page layout, I can go inside the body tag and I can write whatever I want and it will be passed as HTML by my browser. What does that mean? Let's try to understand. So we can add elements inside the body tag to define the page layout. What is an HTML element?
An HTML element is everything from starting to the ending tag. So let us talk about body. When I say HTML body element, I'm talking about the opening body tag. I'm talking about the closing body tag and the content inside the body tag. It might be some other HTML tags. It might be the plain text. It might be some image tag. It can be some sort of valid HTML just written inside body tag. Okay. So now let's try to understand what are attributes. So we know what an HTML element is. Let's now talk about attributes. So HTML attributes are used to add more information corresponding to an HTML. Let's talk about anchor tag, which is used to create links inside of a web page. If I say a href is equal to this particular website and Harry and then a href attribute is basically telling me that once this element is clicked, please take the user to this website. Let's try this out. Let's try an a tag. So what I'll do is I'll say codewithharry.com and I'm going to open this with live server. If you haven't installed live server yet, you can install it from here by clicking here and searching live server here. But for now, I'm going to say go to the site, and if I click on go to the site, I'll be taken to this site. So this is how this works. Okay, so attributes are simply used to add more information to an HTML tag. Okay, we can either use single or double quotes in attributes. Okay, you can use a single quote or you can use a double quote, but if you're using a single quote, use single quote here and here as well. If you're using a double quote, use a double quote here as well as here. Okay, so we need to maintain consistency when it comes to quotes. Now let's talk about the heading tag. The heading tag is used to mark headings in HTML. We have already talked about href. We have already talked about if you write something inside the body, it will be parsed. These are some of the important tags when it comes to HTML. So whenever I start a page, ideally I'll start with a heading. I'll say food to eat for weight loss. Okay, I'll do something like this. And if I show this to you, I'll go back to my website, and if I reload this, food to eat for weight loss is displayed like this. So by default, my browser knows that this is a heading and my browser knows how to parse it. So it is parsing it in such a way that it looks like a heading. So this is the most important or the top most heading. Okay, if I change this to h2, let us say I'll say h2 food 1 and let me say oats. Okay, so you can see that the heading size has reduced when I typed h2 instead of h1. So if you use h1, you'll see heading like this, and if you use h2, you'll see a smaller heading. A relatively smaller heading will be displayed when we talk about h3 all the way till h6. So let me show that to you as well. So I'll very quickly change this to h3, and I'll install an extension called auto rename tag, and I'll tell you what it does. So auto rename tag will basically rename an opening as well as the closing tag automatically in VS Code. I am installing this application to make my task a bit easy. So if I change this, I think it has been installed. Yes, it has been installed. If I change this to h4, this as well as the closing tag has changed. If I change this to h5, the closing tag has also been changed, because inside an HTML will be valid only if I change the closing tag as well as the opening tag. The opening tag and closing tags must match. Okay, let's come back and see how h1, h2, h3, h4, h5 and h6 looks. h6 is the smallest of all headings, and h5 is second smallest, and h1 is the largest. Okay, so this is how all this works. The note says that we should not use HTML headings to make text thick or bold. Yes, this is important. Always use the tags for what they are created for. If an HTML tag is created for heading, use it only when you are giving headings to your page. If an HTML tag is for paragraph, do not use it for headings, and so on. You can always use heading tag to make a text bold, but the problem is going to come in SEO. The problem is going to come when the third-party sites are passing, or Google bots or some other bots are passing your website. You do not want those problems coming your way. Okay, so this was about the heading tag. Let's now talk about the paragraph tag. The paragraph tag is used to add paragraphs to an HTML page. Let us say you are saying that food to eat for weight loss and you are saying food 1. I'll comment all this out because I want to add a paragraph below H2. So I'll say P, I'll say oats is nice for weight loss because it is satiating. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll show you how this looks. So oats is nice for weight loss because it's satiating. Let me go to Wikipedia of oats and let me copy some of the lines from there. Okay, so let me copy all this, and what I'll do is I'll paste it here, and you'll see that it has been formatted like a paragraph in my HTML page. Not here, I'm talking about here. It will be formatted like a paragraph. So this is how paragraph tag works. It is to display a paragraph and it is doing the job here. Okay. Note that we have not used CSS, because of which this page is not looking very beautiful, and we can always use CSS and custom fonts and images and backgrounds and a lot of JavaScript. We can always do all those things to make a website dynamic, but this is the bare minimum, the bare bones structure of the website. Okay, now coming back to the notes, you can see that the another tag I want to talk about is the anchor tag. We have already seen this tag. This tag was used by us to go to a given website. You can say go to site and it will go to the site which is written inside the href attribute. So I've written this inside the href attribute. I can also specify the target. I can say target is equal to underscore blank, and what this will do is this will open this in a new tab. So this site will now be opened in a new tab because the target is underscore blank. Okay, so let me show this to you. If I reload this page and if I click on go to the site, it is actually opened in a new tab. So this particular thing is used to open a website in a new tab. Okay, coming back to the nodes, the image tag is used to add images to an HTML page. If you use an img tag, what you can do is you can specify an image. I have an image here. If I use src is equal to what is the name of the image? Image.jfif. I'll use this. I accidentally typed here. I want to type here image.jfif. This is something that I want to use inside my image tag, and I can specify an alternative text in case this image is not available. So I'll say image is not available, or I can say Adidas shoes. Let us say this is an image of Adidas shoes. Okay, Adidas shoes. Why do we write alt attribute? This alt attribute is very useful because it gives an alternative text to your image. So in case your image is not available, this text will be displayed. Let me show this to you. So this is the image. It was available, which is why it is being shown. I can always specify width and height of the image using width and height attributes. So let me use width is equal to say 67 pixels, and the size of this image will shrink. If I specify the height as well, the aspect ratio might get hampered. I don't want to hamper this aspect ratio. But in case the image is not available, in my case image 3 is not available here, and Adidas shoes will be displayed. You can see that the Adidas shoes text has been displayed here because this image is not available. Okay, I'll change it back to image.jfif, and you can see that this image is available, and we can see that this image is displayed because it is available. Okay, now coming back to the notes, let's talk about the next tag, which is bold, italic and underline. So we can use bold, italic and underline tags to highlight the text as follows. So you can use the B tag, you can use the I tag, and you can use the U tag. Let's see how these tags work. So if I say B, I am bold. If I say U, I'll say I am, I want to talk about italic. If I say I am italic. And if I talk about U, I am underline. Okay. So B, I and U tag, bold, italic, underline. So bold, italic, underline. You can always change the way they look using CSS. A lot of people use these tags and then they change the formatting of these tags, and they do not look the way they look when there is no CSS inside the page. This is very normal for the websites, Many people change the size of each one, they change the size of paragraph. It depends upon the requirement. They can change whatever they want using CSS styling, and this is what the CSS is for. You can change the size of the image, you can change the way page looks, you can change the background of the image, you can use CSS to create layouts. All these things can be done using CSS, and it's perfectly normal. Coming back to the next tag, and it is the BR tag. What is the BR tag for? It is used to create line breaks in an HTML document. Now BR tag is an example of unpaired tag. There are two types of tags in HTML: paired tag and unpaired tags. Okay, paired tags are basically the ones which has an opening tag and a closing tag. So this is a pair tag. BR is an example of unpaired tag because I can use BR without a closing tag. So I can say BR and I do not need a closing or opening tag for BR. BR is simply for a line break. So if you are seeing BR here, or let me show this here. So I'm talking about winter oats and I want a line break right after winter oats. So if I do something like this, I want to copy this, I want to paste it here. So I'm saying winter oats May and I need a line break, and then I want to continue. So if I show you the layout of the page, so you can see that winter oats May and there's a line break, be grown as an off-season ground cover. So there is a line break here because we are using a BR tag here. Okay, so this is how a BR tag works. Okay, this is an example of an unpaired tag. We do not need an opening and closing tags. We do not need a pair of tags to get it working. Okay, let's talk about big and small tags. Big makes the text a bit larger and small makes the text a bit smaller. Very straightforward. Let me show it to you. So big tag, this is big. Now if I show you how this looks like this. The same goes for small tag as well. I'll change it to small, and this is small, this is small, and small tags looks something like this. This is small. I do not recommend using these tags because you should always use CSS to structure your pages, and this is something that HTML offers, but you can use CSS to better structure your web pages, to better design your web pages. Let's talk about the HR tag. Once again, another example of an unpaired tag, which is used to create a horizontal ruler, often used to separate the content. Okay, so let us say I want to separate this particular content and the image. I can create a horizontal ruler. I can say HR, and you can see that a ruler, a horizontal line has been created by the browser. The browser parses this HR tag and converts this HR tag to this particular line. Let's talk about the subscript and superscript tags. The subscript and superscript tags in HTML are used to create subscript and superscript. Let me show you an example. So let us say you want to write the chemical formula of ozone. You'll say sub and you'll say 3 and you'll do something like this. You'll say O. So O3 is the chemical formula of ozone. Let us say you want to write 3 square or x square. You'll do something like this and you'll use a super tag and you'll say 2. So x square and O3. You can write these things like this. So this is ozone and this is x square. I hope you understood how sub and sup works. So sub is for subscript and sup is for superscript. Let's talk about the pre tag. HTML always ignores the extra spaces and new lines. So let us say I have this text. I'll write a paragraph here. I'll say I am a lot of spaces boy. If I save this and if I go to my page, you'll see that only one space has been parsed and only one space is displayed by the browser. But in my source code, I had a lot of spaces. What if I want to see all these spaces? I can always wrap my content inside a pre tag, and if I do that, what will happen is I'll see all these spaces. So if you want to render your content as is, you can use a pre tag. This is how pre tag works. This is used to render content which demands to get displayed as is. So in this case, you can see this is written using pre tag has a new line. So if you have a new line here, if you write a paragraph and you say I have, and you say a new line, and if I save this, the new line will not be preserved. I have a new line is displayed like this. In order for it to display, what I'll have to do is I'll have to wrap it inside a pre-tag. So when I wrap it inside a pre-tag, what happens is it displays the text as is, as you can see here. So all the new lines and all the spaces are preserved. I hope you understood how these tags work. I urge you to practice all these tags and start writing HTML yourself, because if you practice, you are going to understand HTML in a very fun way and it will be very easy for you to master it. Let's now move on to chapter 2 practice set and practice some of these tags. In a last video, we talked about the structure of HTML documents, and we also talked about some of the most important tags that you all should know. We'll now be solving chapter number 2 practice set. Let me open this for you, and we have few questions which we have to solve using HTML, and this is really very simple. Let me tell you, create an HTML page with a heading, a primary heading and a subheading. So you have to use the h1, h2, h3 headings in order to create this structure, and you have to tell which tags you use. So I want you to try this on your own before looking into the solution, because solutions are going to vary. I am going to solve it in a different way. Maybe you are going to solve it in some other way. Let me solve this for you. So there should be a heading, the title heading, and then there should be a primary heading and then a subheading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write pr01.html. So this is our program number 1. So let me say 01 underscore pr01.html. I'm going to use the boilerplate code, and what I'm going to type here is I'm going to type h1, and I'll say, let me talk about programming languages to learn. Okay, and then I'll say h2, I'll say web development for different fields. Okay, so here I'm going to talk about web development. I'll write something about web development. Now I'll tell you something. In order to generate dummy text, in order to generate say 200 words or 300 words, you can do something like this. You can say lorem and number of words. So let us say I want to generate 34 words. I'll say lorem 34 and I'll press enter, and this is going to generate 34 random words for me. It's not random words basically. This is I'm not sure which language. I think German, if I'm not wrong. Lorem ipsum is which language? Lorem ipsum language. Which language is it? It's Latin. Okay, it's a Latin phrase. So this is something which is generated automatically. Let me do one thing. Let me turn on word wrap so that you can see the words included here. So this is used to generate dummy text. Let me show how this website looks. This is how the website looks. Primary heading, secondary heading, then subheading. Okay, let me create a subheading. I'll say something about web development, then I'll simply say backend, then I'll say something about backend, and I'll say lorem 23, and then I'll say front end. I should have said front end first, backend after front end. Order doesn't matter, but again front end, and I'll say something about lorem 23. So I'll say something about backend, and this is how my page is going to look. I'm not sure if we can generate this in English. Lorem, I'll say lorem ipsum in English. Can we generate something like this in English? So you can find few websites online which can allow you to generate random text in English, or you can copy the text from Wikipedia. It doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 1 is all sorted. Let's move to next question, which says create a page with 5 wallpaper images taken from the internet. So I'll simply say free wallpapers. Wallpapers. Okay, I want to download free wallpapers. Let me use Unsplash. Unsplash is an amazing website. I have used it in the past. It has amazing images, and it's amazing for web developers. Let me tell you, I'm going to download it for free. This is going to be my first image. Let me see if I'm going to get some images related to coding. Let me search coding here, and we got few images. These are sponsored images. These are the free images. Let me look into this image. Okay, this looks pretty good. Let me download this. I'm going to download 4 images, and I'm going to copy these 4 images into my folder. Okay, so these are the 4 images that I downloaded. Let me rename them to 1, and then this one to 2, then this one to 3, then this one to 4, and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'll do is I will simply create another file. I'll say 02 underscore and let me call it images.html. I'll put the boilerplate code and I'll use 4 image tags, and I'll say 1.jpg here, 2.jpg here, 3.jpg here, and 4.jpg here. It doesn't look good, let me tell you, when it is rendered, but we are going to change it using CSS. You can watch my CSS video. I'm going to upload a CSS video in English very soon. So there you will start enjoying the things. Now this image is very large, so we'll have to set the width and height. Let me set the width. I'll say width is equal to 344 pixels, and 344 pixels should be fine. It should be good enough for this image to fit into this page. Yes, it looks good. So this is a page with images taken from the internet. So these images are taken from the internet and we have finished the task successfully. Let me tell you that you can change this title as well. So if I go to this title, I can say internet wallpapers. I can do something like this and I should see internet wallpapers here. So this is how you can change the title in HTML. Let's move on to the next question. Use BR and HR text to display a piece of text with line break. This is super simple. This is the simplest problem from this practice set. HR underscore BR.html, and I'm going to put the boilerplate code and I'm going to put random text. Okay, let me spell random correctly. I'll say lorem34, and what I'll do is I'll say HR and then I'll again say lorem34, and after ILLO I'll put a BR. And let me save it and let me open this particular thing in live server. Let's see how this works. So I think, okay, so we already have the server running. Let me look into this file and open this. So this is how it looks. This is the HR, and after ILLO we have a line break. So HR works, BR works. Now let's move on to the next question. Super simple. Once again, it's a chemical equation. You have to model it inside a web page. This is very simple, and HTML in fact is very simple, let me tell you. So by the end of this video, by the way, you'll know everything you need to know about HTML. HTML is pretty straightforward. Let me write chemical equation, chemical underscore equation.html, and boilerplate code, and I'll say C plus O2. I'll do something like this and I'll say CO2, not 02, CO2. Okay, now if I render it like this, let me dispose this port and open this page. This is going to look something like this, but I want 2 as subscript because this is oxygen. O2 is for oxygen, CO2 is for carbon dioxide. Let me use my sub tag, sub for super subscript. So subscript, and I'll say 2 instead of this 2, and I'll replace this 2 as well with sub 2. And super simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. This is pretty straightforward. I hope that you were able to understand this. I don't think that there is any issue with using sub and sup tags. Super simple. Question number 5 is something that you will attempt yourself. Try to write a Wikipedia article using HTML, and all you have to do is simply go to Wikipedia. Let me go to coding Wikipedia and let's open this Wikipedia page. All you have to do is try to get this image, try to get this heading. This is an image. Try to get this heading. Wikipedia, by the way, contains very minimal HTML. Very minimal styling. It has a very raw HTML kind of structure, so it is going to be very easy for you to model it. But try to model it. I know it will be a little bit difficult for you to model it at this point of time, but again, try to model it, try to at least get the text correct using BR and HR text. This particular thing is HR, this line is HR, this line is HR, once again this is HR. So I hope that you will be able to model this Wikipedia page to some extent. This completes our chapter 2 practice set. We are now going to move into chapter number 3, where we'll explore more of HTML stuff. Let's move on to chapter 3 now. So let's now move on to chapter number 3 and dive deeper into HTML. So I'm opening this PDF up, and you can see that we are going to create a page layout this time, and we are going to learn how to lay
a website out. So this is a very important skill when it comes to designing websites. You learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you'll start designing the websites, everything will go well, but a good web developer is always going to create an amazing page layout, and that's what this chapter is about. So when we use the right tag in right place, it results in a better page layout, better indexing by search engines, and better user experience as well. So we want everybody to be happy. We want search engines to be happy, we want users to be happy, and we ourselves want to be happy. So this is how we can create an amazing page layout. There are some of the tags that we are going to use, and let's look into these tags. So we use the following tag to get the job done. We use a header tag, we use a main tag, and we use a footer tag. Header contains the nav tag and it defines the header of a website, and then footer contains the footer of the website if there is any footer on the website, and then comes the main tag, inside which we insert the main opening tag. Then we have a section tag, then we have an article tag, and then we have an aside tag, and this is used to lay a content which is not very important to the page. It doesn't describe the page, but again it is in the page, which is why it is named aside, and it contains the content aside from the main content. Okay, for example, the ads, the sidebar, the navigation bar or something. These kind of things can be kept inside the aside tag. Article is a self-contained content. It contains the main content of the page. Section is the one section of a page. For example, if you have an e-commerce store, then you might have men's clothing as your first section, and then women clothing as another section. So section describes what is there inside one particular entity. So it basically defines content inside the page, but again we are structuring the content in a better way. Now creating a page like this is not necessary. You can always go with H1, H2, H3 and paragraphs, but again if you do it like this, it will be readable by the people, it will be readable by the search engines, it will be readable by everybody. Okay, and everybody will be happy, and they are therefore useful for SEO. So we use all these things for SEO. We will always want to optimize our websites for search engines. Now let's talk about the link or attributes. We have already seen the A tag. We have already seen what href is going to do inside the A tag. It is going to take the user to another page on the same website or on some other page on the internet. Okay, so we can always use A tags, and this will open the contact page in the same tab. This will open contact in a new tab. Let me go into my folder and open this folder in VS Code. I'm gonna create a file here, index.html. I'll use the boilerplate code and I'll zoom in so that you all can see what is happening here. So we have this document, we have this body. I'll name this to page layout, and also what I'm going to do is I am going to open this in live server, and this is going to open my page layout page inside the live server. Let us do one thing. Let us start demoing all these things one by one. So we'll use the header, main and footer. So let me create a header. I'll say header, then I'll say footer, and between header and footer will come the main tag, and inside the main tag will come the main content, and inside the main content will come some sections. So I'll say section is a tag. I can have multiple sections. Inside my first section I'm going to use H1. I'll say or rather let me do one thing. I'll say clothing, and then inside my first section I'm going to use H2. I'll say men's clothing, and then I'll say women's clothing. Okay, so let me do the same thing for another section as well. So let me use this and women's clothing. Okay, women's clothing, and let me say lorem 23, and I want to always turn my word wrap on. Word wrap, you can always search the settings in VS Code. Many people ask me, how do I remember all these things? But I do not remember all these things for the sake of remembering. I always search the internet. I always ask my friends, and once I get to know something, it's behind the back of my mind. So this setting is behind the back of my mind, that enabling the word wrap will actually let me get rid of this horizontal bar. I don't need this horizontal bar. I want my text to appear like this. Why? Because I want to see entire text which is coming on this page. Okay, so men's clothing, women's clothing. Once again, I'm going to do lorem 23 inside a paragraph. So I'll say lorem 23, and I will save. And once again, if I open this page, I'm going to see this. Now, This is not changing anything. Using main, aside, section, and all these semantic tags. By the way, these are called semantic tags in HTML, and semantic tags will simply make your HTML look nicer to the bots. It will make it look structured to other developers, to everybody. Okay, which is why we use these things. Using these things once again is not necessary. You can always use the old traditional HTML without all these tags. But again, using these tags are going to make it clean. It is going to make it search engine optimized. Let me do one thing. I'll say clothing on the internet. Okay. What I'll do is I'll show you what I'm planning to do here. I'll simply say clothing, and I'll open a random link. So clothing, Myntra, clothing. I'll copy this link, by the way, and after copying this link, I'm going to use the women clothing and men clothing. So men clothing is here, women clothing is here. So I'll simply copy this one for women clothing, and what I'll do is I'll say href is equal to this, and then inside this will come h2. By the way, in order to move the tags, I'm using alt up arrow key and alt bottom arrow key. This is going to take your tags wherever you want them to go inside VS Code. Obviously, if you're using some other source code editor, there might be some other shortcuts. Now, as you can see here, women's clothing will take you to the Myntra women clothing page. Let me show this to you. Once you click on women's clothing, you'll go to this myntra.com/shop/women, and the same goes for men clothing. And for men clothing, let me copy this link and a tag, and then I'm going to do this. Okay. And obviously it is not looking good because I have not used any styling. I can always use CSS to style my web pages, and it is going to look much cleaner and better. But we are going to use HTML in this tutorial, and I'm going to make a CSS tutorial as well for you guys. So if you want a CSS tutorial, let me know. I am going to create a CSS tutorial for you as well. Okay, so this is men's clothing, this is women's clothing, and we have done it. Okay, so let me close this, and if I click on men clothing, then you will go to this page, but I want it to open in a new tab. And in order to do that, what we do is we use target attribute. We'll say target is equal to underscore blank, and this is going to open this particular link in a new tab. So let's try this out. We will go to a page, I'll reload it, I'll click on men's clothing, and these two links are going to take me to Myntra's page, and these links will open in a new tab, as you can see. So this is how these links work, and this is how all these semantic tags work. We can put any content inside an anchor tag. You can put images, you can put headings. I have used headings, as you can see. These are headings inside an anchor tag, and whenever you click on these headings, you'll be taken to another page. Okay, so this is how this works. If the page is inside a directory, we need to make sure that we link to the correct page. This is important. If the page is inside a directory, you need to use the directory slash something. So I'll show you something. So let us say you have an HTML page inside a folder. Let me call it folder. It can be anything. I'm calling it folder, but this can be anything. Okay. Now let us say there is a page inside folder, this.html. Okay. And all I want to do here is I'm going to say I am this. Okay. I am this. Now let us say I want to use an anchor tag, and I want my user to go to this. So let me use an anchor tag here. I'll say slash folder slash this. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll say go to this. Now this particular link will take me to this web page. Let me show you. If I reload it, I'll click on go to this. It will take me to this page. So if I have a page inside a folder, I'll have to write the name of the folder, then slash, and then the page. And if I have nested hierarchy, then I'll have to use that hierarchy. Let us say we have a folder inside of a folder inside of a folder. I'll have to say slash the name of this folder, then slash the name of the folder which is inside this folder, and so on until I get to the page. So this works simply like Windows or Linux or Mac OS's paths. So this should be straightforward. Coming back to the notes, you can see that this is what I mean when I say if the page is inside a directory, we need to make sure that we link to the correct page. I hope that you got it. Now we can add links to images like this. We can use an anchor tag and we can use an image inside an anchor tag, and height will be set automatically because width is 120. We can give width and height will be set automatically, maintaining the aspect ratio. So let me show this to you. What I'll do is I'll simply use img src is equal to, let us say, img slash cwh slash jfif. So I have an image inside this img folder, which is the image I'm using here. I'll save this and I'll take you to this page, and this displays this image, but this image is very large, and you can see that I am getting this horizontal bar. Let me do one thing. What I'll do is I'll simply say img width is equal to 100 pixels. Okay, let us say I want 100 pixels. I'll say width is equal to 100 pixels, and you can see that the width is 100 pixels and the height is set automatically because the image will maintain the aspect ratio. Now let's talk about the div tag, and let's talk about the span tag as well, and this will complete this chapter. So div tag and span tag, both of these tags are very important. Why? Because div tag is often used as a container for other elements. Let us say I want to structure a page. Most of the websites that you are going to see on the internet will be using div and spans a lot. So div is simply a container, and when you use a div tag, it is often used as a container for other elements, and div is a block level element, which means it always takes full width. Let me show this to you. So let us say I have a div, and inside this div I have a paragraph. I'll say I am a paragraph, or rather let me do one thing. What I'll do is I'll write I am a para like this. Okay, now if I come to this page, now if I right click on I am para and I click on inspect, what I'll see is that the moment I hover over this I am a para, this is taking the entire width of the page. It is not taking only the part it should have taken, it is taking the entire width of the page. But if I do the same thing with span, let me show it to you. If I do the same thing with span, by the way, I'm using auto rename tag extension, which is renaming my tags automatically. When I'm renaming the opening tag, it is renaming the closing tag as well. Okay, so let me come back to the browser, and you can see that if I hover over the span, it is taking the width it should take. I mean to say that it is taking the width which is required by it. So I am a para requires this amount of width and it is taking this amount of width. But in case of div, it is taking the entire width of the page. So this is really very important. This is the difference between div and span. Div is a block level element. Block level elements takes the entire width of the page. And inline elements, they do not take the entire width of the page. They take as much width as necessary. So this is very important. Examples of some other inline elements are image. Image also takes as much width as required. It doesn't take the entire width of the page. So I hope that you were able to understand all the concepts which were described in this chapter number 3, and you are going to build your page layout starting from now. But before that, we are going to look into chapter 3 practice set, where I have some of the very important questions to understand all these concepts. So let's move on to chapter number 3 and solve some amazing questions. Let us now move on to chapter number 3 practice set, where we are going to solve some of the very important questions from chapter 3. So let me open the PDF, and also I'm going to open this folder in Visual Studio Code. This is going to open this folder in code, which is a source code editor, and also we are going to solve all the questions that are inside this practice set. So the first question says that create an SEO friendly website using HTML, and when I say SEO friendly website using HTML, I just mean you need to use semantic tags, and you can always do that by following this particular chapter. And what I've done is I have used header, main and footer, and also I've used sections inside of all these things. So if you want to create an SEO friendly website, you can use semantic tags, but this is not the only thing that is going to boost your website's SEO. There are a lot of other things. There are meta tags. There are a lot of other things as well, which we are going to talk about in the later videos. But for now, this website is the solution of question number 1. So create an SEO friendly website using HTML. This website is an SEO friendly website. Let's move on to the next question, which says create an HTML page which opens Google when clicked on an image. And this is really very simple. I have to use anchor tag. So what I'll do is I'll say 01_pr02.html, and all I'm going to do here is uh, I'm going to change the title to go to Google. So let me type go to Google and let me add an image here. So what I'll do is I'll say img, then inside the img folder I'm going to use this image, and then alt is equal to go to Google. And what I'll do is I'll simply say click the image below to go to google.com. Okay, and I'm going to wrap the entire thing in href, but before that I'm going to wrap it in h1. So what I'll do is I'll say ahref is equal to, I'll say ahref is equal to https google.com, and I'm going to close the anchor tag right after this image. So this is how my anchor tag looks. Let me open this thing in live server, and you can say click the image below to go to Google, and the moment I click on this image I'll be taken to google.com. So this works. Okay, now the next question says that create a website which has your 5 top used websites bookmarked. So we have to create a website which will have 5 top used websites bookmarked. The links should open in a new tab, and this is also simple. So I'll say 02 underscore pr03.html 03.html, and all you have to do is create bookmarks for yourself. So I'll say href is equal to say facebook.com, and these days people use a lot of WhatsApp, so you can use whatsapp.com. I'll say Facebook, and before replicating it I want to add the target is equal to underscore blank attribute, and here I'll say Google, and here I will say LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn, and I'll change this to linkedin.com and this one to facebook.com. Okay, sorry, google.com, my bad, google.com. Okay, so if I open this particular file in live server, you can see that clicking on Facebook is going to take me to facebook.com, and this will open facebook.com in a new tab. Same goes for LinkedIn as well, and same goes for Google as well. Okay, so this is how you can create a website for yourself which will contain your most visited pages. You can also use div tags if you want all these links to appear below each other. So let me use div. So you can use multi-cursor functionality of VS Code. The moment you click on Alt and you start clicking on somewhere inside your window, you can type something and that something will appear everywhere you have a cursor. So in this case, I'm going to say div, and I'll press shift. I'll use my arrow keys to select this div. I'm going to press Ctrl X. This will cut the div. I'll press end. This will take me to the end of the line for each cursor, and then I'll press Ctrl V. This might sound a little bit tricky, but once you get the hang of how multi-cursor functionality in VS Code works, you're going to love it. Okay, so let me save and let me show you how this looks now. The links are appearing below each other. I hope you liked this chapter 3 practice set and you understood each and everything that we learned about in this chapter. Let's now move on to chapter 4 and explore a bit of more HTML. We'll now move on to chapter number 4. So let's open chapter number 4 PDF, where I have written notes for you. So this PDF is about lists, tables and forms. This chapter is going to teach you about how list works, how tables work and how forms work. So let's start with list. Lists are used to display content which represents a list. For example, list of all the items that you're going to buy from the grocery tomorrow, list of all the shoes that you want to buy, list of all the storage devices you own. There can be tons of example. List of all the friends that you actually think are your friends. Okay, this might sound weird, but let's start exploring the types of lists. The first type of list is an unordered list. An unordered list is something which it doesn't has any order. Now, this is used to list unordered items. For example, let us say you are creating a navigation menu and you have a lot of items in your navigation menu. You can use home, about and contact. There can be a lot of other tabs, but UL can be used as a tag to define the beginning of an unordered list, and you can then use li for the list items. Let me show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in VS Code and I'm going to close the chapter 3 VS Code window. I will create a new file. I'll say 01 underscore list.html, and here I'm going to give it a heading of list. Okay, inside of body, what I'll do is I'll use a div, and inside the div I'll say this is an unordered list. Okay, now after writing this is an unordered list, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use an unordered list, and I'll say home, and there can be a lot of other list items. I'll say about, I'll say services, okay, contact us. Now after doing this, what we'll do is open this in live server, and you can see this is an unordered list. Home, about, services, contact us. This has been displayed by the browser. Let me open just these two tabs, and I'm going to close the other tabs. Now what about ordered list? What is an ordered list? Let us say I want to use the same thing for ordered list instead of unordered list. I'll comment this out, and I will change this to ordered list. So I'll say OL. You might be noticing that when I'm changing the opening tag, the closing tag is also getting changed, but this might not be the case for you because I have installed an extension called auto rename tag. If you don't have this extension, your browser or rather VS Code will not rename the closing tag while you are renaming the opening tag. So keep a note of that. Also, let us see how ordered list works. So when you say ordered list, the list will have an order by default. It will use 1, 2, 3, 4 as the order. Now you can change these numbers to Roman numbers. You can also change these to ABCD and other types of formats using CSS, but this video is not about CSS. We'll explore this in a CSS video, but for now just understand that this is an ordered list. Let me also change the heading because it says unordered list and I want to change it to ordered list. So I'm going to do this, and you can see that this is an ordered list and this is an unordered list. I'll uncomment this one as well so that you can see the difference between the ordered and unordered list. This is pretty simple and straightforward. Let's move on to tables now. The table tag is used to define tables in HTML. Very simple and straightforward. You can use tables. Let me show you how HTML tables work. Why am I googling it? Why am I not showing you by writing the code? Because I want to show you the tables that you'll see after they have been designed using CSS. This video is not about CSS, which is why I'm not showing you the raw tables for now. I will definitely write code and show you the raw tables, but I want you to see how table looks after they have been styled. Let's go to a website. You don't have to worry about it, but Bootstrap, I think I misspelled it, bootstrap.com, and I want to show you the tables from Bootstrap. You don't have to worry about all this. This is simply a website and I want you to show the tables from this website. Content, I want to look for tables. So this is how the tables are going to look after they have been styled. You can see that how beautiful this table looks, but the raw HTML table will look like this only after they have been styled using CSS. So I'll close this tab now and let us start creating a table. For creating a table, I'll create a new file and I'll say 02 underscore table.html, and I'll put on the boilerplate code. I'll say table and then I'll say h2 table. Now what I'll do is I'll use a table tag. Table is an HTML tag and we can use this tag to initialize a table. This is the beginning of our table. The table tag is used to define tables and it is used to format and display tabular data. Now there are three more tags which can be used inside of tables. They are tr, td and th. Tr tag is used to display table row, td for table data, th for displaying the table headers. Okay, let me show you how this works. So what I'll do is I'll simply say th, this is table heading. I'll say name, and then after that what I'll do is I'll say about, and then I'll say role. Okay, now after doing this, what I'll do is I will use td, which is for table data, and I'll wrap this th inside of tr. So let me show this to you. And even if I show you the Bootstrap page, getbootstrap.com, they have also used the same thing. The tables are structured in the same way. You can see that we have tr, which contains all the table headings, and then we have the table data inside of tr. Okay, so what we'll do is this is a row, this is a table row, and inside the row are the headers. Okay, now we'll create a row, but instead of creating a row and headings, we'll create a row of data. Okay, so this is a row which contains the headings, which will be done only once, and after that I'll simply say Harry, and about I'll say software engineer, and the role we can say AI lead. Okay, now I'll save this and show you how this table looks. So I'll open this in live server, and you can see that this is how the table looks. Note that the table heading has been bolded by default by the browser, and these rows are not bolded. They are not emphasized as much as the headings, because the text inside the heading is something which should be highlighted, and it is highlighted. Let us now move on and add some more data. So I'll simply say Harry 2. I know I'm being lazy here, but you can fill it with more data. I'm saying Harry 2, software engineer 2, AI lead 2, and this is going to work. Okay, now there is something called table head and table body, and let me show these tags to you. So tr is used to display table row, then table data, th for table heading. Okay, I hope you got these three tags. We have used these three tags. We can define as many table rows as we want. To add a caption to the table, we can use caption inside the table tag. Let me show this to you. So inside the table tag, I'll say caption, and I'll say this is an amazing table. Okay, let me move on to my table, and you can see this is you can see that this is a table caption. You can always style this table caption using CSS, which is not a big deal. Now let's talk about t head and t body tag. What is t head and what is t body? T head is used to wrap table head, a caption and tr with th. So you can use caption and tr with th. So let's do it. Caption and tr with th can be moved inside t body, which is what I've done here. You can see that t body contains, sorry, this should be t head, not t body, because this is the heading, and the same goes for t body as well, t body. And what we'll do is we'll cut this, and we will add another t body here. I'll remove this td, and I'll format the document so that it looks good. And also I'll remove the extra spaces. I'll save this file, and you can see that this is how it looks. But we can always wrap the head of the table and body of the table with t head and t body. I hope that you all understood how these things are working. Why are we wrapping it using t head and t body? We are wrapping it because we might want to add some styles to only the table head or to only the table headings. So you can always target this thing using CSS. Okay, let us now move on to the next topic, which is call span attribute. And this is also important because when you're using a table, sometimes you want a particular cell to span more than one column. Okay, and we can use this call span is equal to the number of columns you want one particular cell to span. You can always define it using call span. Let me show you how this works. So what we'll do is we will go to a th, and we can go to td as well. I'll say call span is equal to 4, and the moment I save and show you, you can see that Harry is taking 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, and then 4th column. Okay, so if you want a cell to span more than one columns, you can always use call span. Let's now talk about some HTML forms. A form is used to collect input from the user. Form tag is used for the same. And let me tell you this thing in layman terms. Forms are used by the developers whenever they want some user data to be submitted to the server. So let us say you want to collect some details from the user. What you will do is you will use forms in order to collect that data, and there will be an option to submit the data to the server. Now submitting data to the server is something which comes under the backend and not on the front end, and HTML is something which comes in the front end. So at this point, we are understanding how front end works and specifically how HTML works. Front end consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we are looking into the HTML part of it. So there are different form options, form elements for different kinds of user input. There is an input element, there is a text area element, then there is a select element. Once again, there are different types in input element. Let me show you the input element. So this can be of type text, checkbox, radio button, and submit. We also have a file type. So let me show how this works. So what I'll do is I'll say 03_form.html, and I'll put in the boilerplate code, and in place of document I'll say form
form, and inside the body I'll use the form tag. So action is something which will tell the browser what should be done with this data. Now action can be get or it can be post. You might want to post some content on the server, or you might want to make something known as a get request. Now at this point I'm not talking about the post and get request. We'll be talking about how input tag works. So type of the input tag is very important. Let me show you some types of the input tag. So this can be a password, this can be a button, this can be a submit, type is equal to submit, and then we also have input type is equal to file. And let me open this in live server for you. You can see that this is how input text looks like, and this is how input type is equal to password looks like, and this is how input type is equal to file looks like. This is input type is equal to submit, and you can see that it is submitting this data to this form. Now this is input type is equal to button. You'll have to give it some value, so I'll say value is equal to this, and the moment I write this, you'll see that this is coming under the button. So the difference between this button and this button is that this button will submit the data and this button will not submit the data. So whenever you want to use a button and you don't want that form to be submitted whenever that button is clicked, you will use this type of button, which is type is equal to button. But if you want a button to submit data whenever clicked, you will use input type is equal to submit. I hope that that is clear for all of you. Now coming back to the nodes, there is a text area element and there is a select element. Let me show you the text area element and also let me show you the select element. So if I say text area, it will give me an option of number of rows, number of columns. I can give it a name, I can give it an ID. Also, I can say this is the text inside the text area. Okay. So I will show you how this changes the form. So this is a text area and this is a text inside the text area. These spaces are coming before this because we have these spaces here. So if you don't want these spaces to come, you can do something like this and these spaces will disappear. So this is how input type is equal to text area looks like. Let us now see select option. So select name and ID is something which can be given. Then we can give an option. So value is equal to, let us say car, this is car, and then Jeep, this is Jeep, then van, this is van. This is how it works. Let me show it to you. So there are three options. This is car, this is Jeep, this is van. When you're submitting this data to the server, the values will get submitted. So these values will get submitted and you will get a deeper understanding of this when you learn some backend language and you start submitting data to the server. In order to do that, you might want to look into languages like PHP, frameworks like Django, Flask. You might also want to look at Node.js, but again, that is for the later part. Currently, we are looking into HTML. Let's move on to the nodes back and let us read out something I've written in the nodes. You don't have to remember all the tags. You will automatically memorize them with practice. This is very important for the beginners out there because they tend to memorize each and everything that comes their way. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is keep practicing, keep developing pages, and you will get a hang of it. Now, embedding videos. Video tag is used to play videos in HTML. You can use a video tag and you can use this tag to play videos on your web page. So let us see how this works. So video src is equal to this, and then I'll use a closing tag to close this video. Now since there is no header.html, nothing is going to play. Let me place a video inside my current directory and you will see that video will start playing. So I just managed to place a harry.mp4 video, which is nothing but a part of the recording of this video. Let us see how this works. Let me come back to my page, the forms.html, and this video is taking a lot of space. Look at this, look at this, look at this, the width and the height. It is taking a lot of space. Also, what I'll do is I'll add a controls prop here, and the moment I add this controls attribute, what will happen is the controls will show up. You can see that now controls are showing up and this video is playing. Okay, so if you want the controls to come, all you need to do is write controls here. Also, I'll say width is equal to 23 pixels, or rather 233 pixels, because 23 is too small. Even this thing is very small, but let me change the, or rather reset the
zoom of the browser, and you can see that this
Action
video
is
playing.
something.
Now this website is not looking good because we have not styled it using CSS. We will definitely style our website using CSS if we are going in production. At the moment we are not going into production. We are just looking into how HTML works and how to use tags like video, how to use forms, how to use tables, etc. Now there are some important attributes for video I've written. You can use width, we just used it, and height will automatically get adjusted. Now we can also use autoplay or loop to autoplay or loop the video. So you can do something like this. You can say autoplay, and you can also say loop, and if you do something like this,
Let me show you the input
let
element.
me
So
pause this.
this can be of type
Let
text
me
checkbox.
Pause this. Okay, so what happens is whenever you add autoplay or loop, what will happen is this video will automatically play whenever the video whenever the web page loads, and also this video will start playing once again whenever it completes. So whenever this video finishes playing, it will start playing once again.
Let me show you the
You can see that it started playing the moment it finished. So this is how HTML video attribute works. Let's now move on to chapter number 4 practice set, and let's explore some more things in HTML, and let's practice some of the things that we just studied in chapter number 4. Now that we have looked into so many concepts of chapter number 4, we are going to look into chapter 4 practice set. So what I'm going to be doing is I will open this in VS Code and we will solve this problem set. So the question number 1 says create an HTML page with video embedded inside of it. So we need to create an HTML page and we have to embed a video inside of it, and this is as simple as doing this thing. So I'll say 04 underscore pr01 dot html. I'll put in the boilerplate code and I'll use a video tag. I'll say video src is equal to harry.mp4, and all I'll do after this is I'll write controls. This is going to show me all the controls to control the videos. I can seek, I can play, I can pause, I can do all that stuff. So let me open this in live server. If you don't have live server extension installed yet, you should install it as soon as possible, because if you don't do that, you will not be able to do this. So to follow along, you will have to install live server.
type text checkbox radio button.
Let me
And submit. We also have a file.
So this is how you can solve question number 1. Let's move on to the next question, and this is replace the video in one with a YouTube video. This at the very first glance looks really very tricky, but I'll show you why this question is really super simple. All you have to do is go to YouTube, go to any of the videos. So I'll go to a YouTube video, and after that I'll click on share, and there is an option to embed. So I'll click on this embed option. With this embed option, YouTube is basically telling you that use this URL and you can embed this video anywhere you want. So you can simply use this URL and you should be able to get this video on your website. Let me copy this URL. Let me paste it inside my VS Code. And the moment I do that, I will open this in live server, and this is the video I got. Okay, let me get rid of this one so that you can see that one, and the height and width can be set by you as well. I meant to say 1920 by 1080, and this is the video that we just embedded. So I'll reset it, and you can see that we are able to see this video. So I can simply play this video and this video will start playing. Okay, so you can create a web page, a very simple web page which will have all your favorite songs or all your favorite videos at one place. This is going to be super simple just using HTML. How cool is that? So I am going to move on to the next question now. The next question from our PDF says that create an HTML form for a travel website to book a vacation. Okay, so let us create our fifth program, and I'm going to say 05 underscore pr02.html. I'll put in the boilerplate code, and what I'll do is I'll simply use a div tag. Inside that I'll use a form tag, and I'll press the tab key. The moment you press the tab key, your cursor will be taken inside the form. So I'll simply use the input tag, and I'll use input text. And after typing input text, I'll say enter your name. Okay, so I'll simply say enter your name. Enter your name. I'll simply save, and after doing this, I'll use enter your city, and then I'll use enter your phone number. And in order to take the phone number as an input, I'll make it input type is equal to tell.
uh, when are you planning to travel, planning to travel, and I'll simply say input time. And the moment I do that and I right click and open this in live server, I'll close the other tab, close other tabs. You can see that the time can be selected from here, and date can also be selected if you choose input type is equal to date. I'll show you that thing as well. So when are you planning to, which date are you planning to travel? So let me change this to which date are you planning to travel. Okay, the moment I save it, you'll see that these things are organized in this manner. You can always click here and you can select the date. Your browser has the capability to show you this drop down, which can be used to select any date of your choice. Same goes for time as well. You can select the time of your choice. That is, I want to travel at 3:20. So I'll simply use 3 and I'll use 20, and you can use any time of your choice. But this is not how we are going to use the forms in most of our websites that we'll develop. And why is that the case? I'll tell you. We use something called a label attribute, and you'll know why I'm using label attribute in just a moment. Let me comment this out so that you can use this as a reference. Now I'm going to use a div tag and I'm going to give it a class of form control. And why am I giving it a class of form control? I'm doing that because I want to be able to write some CSS targeting this class. Let me tell you the difference between the class and an ID. A class can be given to multiple elements, but an ID can be given to a single element. For example, I'll give you an example. Your roll number in your school is your ID. It's unique. It's for you. And the class you study in is shared by all the students of that class. So that class can be given to multiple students and they all can study. So class is given to multiple elements and all the CSS corresponding to a given class is applied to all the elements. And the ID is unique to one single element. An ID uniquely identifies an element on the web page. Okay, I hope that you got it. Now what I'll do is I'll use a label tag. And why do we use a label tag? We simply use label tag to label which form field this particular text corresponds to. I hope you got the point why we use the label. We just want to say that this enter your name is for this input tag. And when I do that, what I'll do is I'll put the ID that I'm putting here. Let us say I'm putting an ID of name. I'll put this ID inside for. So for attribute contains the ID of the tag this label corresponds to. So this enter your name corresponds to this thing. So as you just saw, label for is equal to name. I use this format. I'm going to copy this once again and I'm going to replace this text with this. And the same goes for this. Let me cut it. Let me change the ID to city. I'll change the ID to city. And once again, I'll do the same thing for phone number. I'll simply use Control D or a set of Control Ds to get this task done. So I just changed all these text and all these for is equal to the ID of the corresponding input tags. And the moment I save it, I'll show you how this looks. And this is how the form should look. We can always add the spacing, add the paddings and change the font and beautify this form a bit more using CSS. But just a moment, I think I forgot to delete this one. I don't need this. So this is how our form looks, and we can always add padding, we can add the CSS, we can always add anything to beautify this HTML page. We can also add a heading here. So let me show you. I can do something like this, travel planner, and you'll see a heading called travel planner here. I know this is not the most beautiful form on this internet, but this looks pretty decent. It can be used to fill in the details, but again, you will definitely use CSS to be able to beautify it, to be able to use it in your production websites. So this is how the form works. Why do we use the label tag? I want to demonstrate this with another attribute, and what I'll do is I'll say type is equal to radio, and I'll say ID is equal to let us say yes, and for is equal to or rather I'll say ID is equal to food, for is equal to food. Do you want to use a catering services? Do you want to use a catering services?
And if somebody wants to use the catering services, they can always say yes, I want to use it, or they can say I don't want to use it. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll simply say, do you want to use a catering services? And then after that I'll say yes or no. Okay, so I'll use the type2 checkbox, and I'll simply say id is equal to food, and I'll show you something. The moment I check this checkbox, this is checked to yes, you want the catering services. The moment you click on this text, you can always check this checkbox. But if we don't have this label tag, let me remove this for attribute. The moment I remove this for attribute, what will happen is clicking this text will no longer check the checkbox. You will have to check it like this, but I don't want that. I want my users to be able to check the checkbox when they're clicking on the text. So I'll use label and for. So this is the standard template for a form, you can say, and you can always use it if you want. And in your production websites, you might want to use action is equal to something which will take all the data to the backend, but we are not covering backend here. I'll definitely come up with more backend videos soon. I already have a Django course, but again, if you want to use backend like PHP, Node.js, please go ahead and you can do that. Let's move on to the next question. Let us say what next question says. I have deleted the PDF, not deleted, I have actually close the PDF. So let me open it once again. And the last question says create a table displaying score of cricket players in a match using HTML. And for this, I am simply going to use a table, and I already have a table here. I think I created in table2.html, and I'm going to use this template. Let me say 06 underscore PR04.html. And I hope that I'm numbering all these problems correctly. I think I have not numbered them correctly. I should have said PR03 here. So let me say PR03 here, because this is the solution to problem number 3. I want to mark all these files correctly so that you can always use them. Now I just saved it. The title says table, but I'll say cricket or IPL final scores. IPL final scores. And the moment I do that, I'll show you something. I'll say final scores in IPL. And I'll simply write some of the player names. I'll say MS Dhoni, and then I'll say Virat Kohli. Then I'll say Venkatesh Iyer. And the moment I do that, I can always change these values. So these are the table rows, these are the table columns. Let me put in some of the scores, and the moment I do that, their scores will be displayed. I know that I'm not using a very good format to do this, but again, I'm just solving the question for the sake of solving it. I'm not reading a production website at this point. Okay, so the moment I save it and I open it in the live server, you'll see that this looks like this: final scores and IPL. I know this is not looking very fancy, but once again, I want to remove this call span attribute, by the way. Let me remove this call span attribute. I don't want to use this call span here. So you can see that the scores are displayed like this, and you can always change the format of the table and it will display anything you want. But again, this is the template. This is the solution to this question. So I hope that you enjoyed this practice set. We'll now move on to chapter number 5 and explore more about HTML. Now this is going to be the last chapter of our HTML course. I'm going to open this chapter, and this is going to be the bonus chapter. This is not a must, but once again, if you want to take your website live online and you want your search ranking on Google's to be good and competitive, you need to learn SEO. SEO is something that you cannot ignore if you want to make money from your website, if you are going to write a blog, or you want some sort of web presence on Google or other search engines. Let's start with this topic. But before starting this topic, I want to tell you something. SEO is not a magic. Some people think that SEO is magic and they can simply take their website with no value at number 1 in Google search using SEO. No, that doesn't work like that. SEO is simply a way to tell search engines what value you are providing. Let us say I'm writing a blog and I am hosting that blog on 199.77.88.121:8000. This is the address. This is the IP address of my blog. I'm not using a domain. I'm not using a title. I'm simply using a text file. I'm not even using HTML, but my content has a lot of value. It provides all the solution to the problems, let us say corresponding to class 12th physics or class 11th physics, Will my blog get the number one rankings on Google search? Obviously not, because Google will not be able to index my website better. It will not even be able to recognize my page as a website because it's simply a text file. So what should I do? I should have a minimal SEO on my website to get some attention from Google. So if you want some attention from Google, Bing and other search engines, you need to use SEO. That's about the SEO. It's not some sort of magic. It's not like simply pay for SEO, hire an SEO expert and they can take your website to number one. No, that doesn't work like that. Okay, your website should have some value, and if it has some value, then SEO might be useful for you. Okay, so let's start with SEO. We will focus only on a HTML standpoint of SEO because SEO is a really very vast topic, and this by no means is a complete SEO course. This is simply a chapter in our HTML course because I feel that you should learn about SEO if you are learning to build websites, and if you're starting out, this is a very good way to teach you SEO by appending a bonus chapter at the end of the HTML course. So we will not be looking into the keyword building, content optimization and site speed, page speed insights, the CLS, first contextual paint, all those things. No, we are not going to look into all those things. We are going to look into on-page SEO. So there are two types of SEOs: on-page SEO, off-page SEO. On-page SEO is something that can be done by HTML developers, that can be done by web developers rather, because at some point your content will be pulled out from some sort of database. So what is HTML SEO? HTML developers can implement SEO using the following techniques. These are the techniques which can be used by HTML developers to do the SEO. So they can set the title very nice and to the point. They can set the meta description. They can set a nice URL slug. They can set the meta keywords, meta author. They can use a fav icon. So I'll be opening this folder in VS Code. So I'll go to open with code and I'll create a website, SEO.html. Okay, so this is a basic HTML page. The very first thing that you need to do in order to incorporate SEO into your website is to set the title. Now this might sound really very obvious, but if your title is on point, then Google will be able to tell users what your website is about. I hope that makes sense. So let us say our website is about shoes, best shoes in Gurgaon, in Gurugram. Okay, now let us say my page contains information about some shoes. I'll simply say best shoe shop. Okay, best shoes shop. Let us say I am talking about some shoe shops, Lorem 23. This will give me some dummy text to put. Let me open this in live server. Yeah, so this is how it looks. So I have set the title and you can see that there is an icon occurring beside my title. I have not set this icon. Then why is this icon appearing over here? This icon is appearing over here because the file that is in the root folder has the name favicon.ico, and when you use this name, what happens is that your browser will automatically find this file and it will use it to place it here. Okay, so this is an image which will be used by the browsers, and this really looks good. If you go to some website like Google, or even if you go to say Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, you can see that they use favicon, and this really improves user experience because they can know what your website is about. They can simply look at the tab and they can easily make out which website is open on the browser. So this is really very helpful, and anything which is helpful to the user, is adding value to the user's life, is good for SEO. If you're writing better content, if your content is providing value, if the user is getting value from your content, then yes, your user will be happy and your website will get traffic. But again, you will have to do something on page in order to tell Google or other search engines that your website is about shoes and your website is talking about this thing, and this is the basic description of your website. Let us say I search best shoes, and the moment I do that, what will happen is there will be some of the shoes which will show up, and this is the first website that pops up. Okay, now can you see this description? This description is the meta description. Now some search engines might want to use meta description, or they might want to generate their own meta description using your page, but you should definitely put some meta description. So let's move ahead and put the meta description. In order to put the meta description, what we'll do is we'll simply type meta and we'll choose this meta DESC, and this will automatically put the description. Now I can put this description in place of in place of this blank, content is equal to will be the description, and this description will be used by the search engines to be displayed here. Now this is the meta description for this website, this is the meta description for this website. Once again, your description which you have provided inside the meta tag might not be used by the websites, but again, it's your duty to provide it, and it's a good SEO practice to provide it, okay, which is why we have provided it. Now what I'll do is I'll add another meta tag which is meta keywords, and I'll simply use meta name is equal to KW, and I'll say shoes, best shoes, better shoes, Gurugram shoes, and so on. I can put some of the keywords here, but do not stuff keywords which are not related to your page. It's not a good practice. And some of the people say that using meta keyword tag is not a good practice these days, because people are using these keywords with a very bad intention. They just want to get their website ranked, and they simply put the keywords which are not even related to the site, and they simply put the trending keywords, which is why search engines are not looking at these keywords meta tag the way they used to look it before. Okay, let us look into another meta tag. We have talked about meta description. The first technique was setting the title. This is very obvious, but again, your title should be on point, because title is a thing which is displayed here. This low price offer on footwear for men. This is the title of this page. This is the title of this page. So you should definitely set title very nicely. Okay. Now let us move on and set a nice URL slug. This is very important. Now what does this mean? Now if I open this icons page or example page from this Bootstrap website, you can see that this is the slug, docs examples. A better example might be this. Let me open some website. Let me open this one. Now, if you look at this website, you can see that best sneakers men. This is the slug for this URL. Now your URL should be able to give some idea to the user on what your content is about. Now this might not sound as important as it actually is, but again, you should use your slug such that whenever somebody is looking at your URL, they should get some idea on what your content is about. Okay, so this was about the URL slug. Now set the meta keywords tag. We just talked about it. Set the meta author tag. Now again, if your website is written by some author, you can use meta author tag and meta author tag. Let me use it. I'll say name is equal to author, and I'll say content is equal to Harry. You can set the author name inside the meta tag, which will give search engines an information on which author has written this page. Then again, set a favicon. We already talked about it. You should have a file called favicon.ico, which will be displayed here and here and here. Even Google is using this favicon file. Even this website, Men's Health, is using this favicon file. So this is very important. Now compress images and other resources. This is something that you should do from your backend, or you might want to do it before hosting your website. This is not an HTML part of web development, but again, it's optimization part. You should compress your images so that people are able to use your image or rather your website with a lot of images using low data bandwidth. Once again, a very important thing, because your users will be happy if they are not using a lot of data, and if the internet connection of your users is slow, then they will be able to load all the resources and images very optimally. Now if there is some HTML, CSS or JavaScript files on your web page which are not being used or which are taking a lot of space, you should compress them and you should remove unused HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now we have talked about images as well. You should add alt tags to images so that your search engines are able to know what an image is about, and they might use it for indexing your page, because your page might contain some image and you might want to tell search engines what a particular image is about. For example, if I open this website, they might want to tell search engines that this particular image is talking about a shoe. This is a shoe image. This particular image is about a particular type of shoe. This particular image is about some type of shoe. And you might want to mention all those things in alt
alt attribute of image tag. Okay, now that's about SEO. We don't have a practice set for this chapter because this is a very simple and straightforward thing. I just wanted to add this chapter as a bonus. I hope you like this HTML course. I want you to practice a lot. You should start building websites. The very next thing you might want to learn should be CSS. CSS is very important, and CSS will change the way you look at websites because you will be able to design beautiful websites using CSS. If you want me to cover CSS on this channel, let me know. I'll be creating a video on CSS as well. Until then, take care. Thank you so much guys for watching this video, and I will see you next time.